Hey everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, how you doing? Welcome to the Tarot Flow Show. We are so happy to have you here. And on the Tarot Flow Show, Synchronicity is the star. I'm your host. My name is ALISON Pickering, and I'm super happy to be here today with our international crew from Sweden. To help us with the spiritual interpretations and with the Kabbalistic connections is our savant student from Stockholm, and that's Kefri Skarabus. Please welcome Kefri Skarabus. Yay!
Hey, Alison.
Hey, thank you for joining us. It's past midnight where you are, and so I appreciate that you are an early bird. You're a night owl, not so much an early bird, but you're awake at all hours. I don't know when you sleep, but I appreciate that you're here for us today. Also here in Southern California, with us today is the hairstylist to the rock and roll stars. He's a rock star himself. He is Mike Bonner. You can check out his bio on our Follow the Road show. And we are here today to very happily welcome someone who I have known for a while. And in the context that I knew him is when we were both slaving away in Los Angeles Unified as reading specialists, as reading experts, trying to get literacy to the masses. And he had been an actor. We were both reading specialists. He since then has been a school leader in middle school and now has really come into his own as a very fine ceramist. And I've been so admiring his work online and everything that he's been sharing as such a creative person. And I want to welcome, and thank him for being here. And that is our friend, Bill GURR. Welcome, Bill GURR. Yay! Thank you for being here, Bill. I hope you're doing well. What's going on?
Well, I just got off the phone with a couple of electricians because we have to wire our home with a 240 volt outlet for the kiln that we're about to purchase. And so that was a bit of an issue.
Well, congratulations. You're stepping up to the professional grade here. So is it a big one? Is it a kind of a barrel kiln? What you're going to have?
I've learned a lot from a couple of years ago when I was just working with a ball of clay, and now building a studio here in our home and also trying to figure out how we're going to fire the clay, because without going into too much detail, there's a number of phases that, from throwing the piece of clay to what they call bisque firing the clay in an electric kiln is what we'll have here. And then glazing it after it's been bisque fired. And then where the magic really happens is in a very high powered gas kiln that fires to just about 2,400 degrees. It's called a reduction environment, where you limit the amount of oxygen and you try to get it as hot as you possibly can. And that's pretty sophisticated work. And the kiln, which I had been doing that in, is no longer available to me. And so I had to find in LA someplace that would do this work. And I was struggling and finally came across a studio that does this type of work, where you drop off your glazed pieces, you pay for the cubic foot of space that it takes in the kiln, and then you pick it up on Monday. So that really allowed me to begin planning and to begin really taking more control of the sort of the, not so much the creative process, but the production time. Because the vision here is to create commission tableware.
Oh, wonderful.
Right. And so historically, I was waiting in another studio for the person who owned that kiln to create some kind of a sculpture. And he would only fire the kiln maybe 3 times a year. Which is not enough. I want to fire the kiln, maybe once a month.
So now you're going to have your own. Congratulations.
I'll have the electric kiln here, and then I'll be able to take that in a big box in the back of my car and take it down to downtown LA, whether it will fire it in a big, gas kiln. And as I said, the magic really happens in with high temperature reduction environments. I don't know if you can see this very well, but this is a cone. This is fired very hot, and there's no glaze on the outside. And this glazing on the inside is a beautiful crackled glaze, and you can see these black spots. That's what spits out in the reduction environment.
Mm.
And then these small cracks here, you go back in there with ink and put it in there, and you can get really, really remarkable things that happen. And here's another one. You can see these little spit outs.
And that's stoneware, right?
Yeah, this is cone 10. Cone 10 is high fire clay with high fire glaze, so really high temperatures. And so you can fire things at lower temperature with different types of clay and different types of glaze. But the comparison I like to make is cone 5 is like acrylic paint, and cone 10 is like oil paint.
Cool. Thank you. So beautiful. Ceramics is really cool. What experience do you have with tarot?
None, other than my wife has has shared. Quite honestly, I have kept a distance from some of the things that my wife is interested in. But she's very interested in tarot reading, very interested. And I historically have been kind of on the, I don't know. I just didn't. I didn't.
Well, it's probably easier to get a reading from a relative stranger, such as we are to you, than it is to get it from the one who's nearest and dearest to you, like your wife, because I don't read for my husband. He won't read. I mean, he doesn't read cards, but reading for somebody so close to you, it's so like full of projection and angst and all this kind of stuff. It's not an attractive prospect personally. So I can relate to where you're coming from. So I hope this is a good experience for you. My whole intent here is to kind of pull back the curtain and make this a transparent process. So you see how it was, at least that I came to what it is that I'm saying in my interpretations. And I kind of take it at a practical, worldly, everyday, how this might reflect in your everyday life thing and in your everyday psychology. And then Mike is going to probably take it up to a little bit more psychological savvy and how you can think about things and how does this reflect in your, he's got a psychological expertise in how he does his interpretation. And Kefri is going to hook it there with the psychology and kind of take it up the chain even more to the spiritual piece. And we're making connections to the Kabbalistic tree of life, which is kind of like a ladder back to source. And it's so on the one hand, it's kind of fun and playful. And on the other hand, it's pretty serious in terms of what it can be for your own personal path work. And so we'll see what it is for you. And sometimes it doesn't land, and so, and it's really a conduit for our intuition. You will determine whether this is relevant to you or not. And this is part of our process as well. And it's always kind of a gamble as we enter into it because we never know what's going to pop up. It is synchronistic. It's of the moment. We're getting a snapshot of the moment. And that's pretty much what we're going to do now. So let's take a little quick tour so those who are watching can know kind of what's going on, where we're going with this. So as we look at our flow today for Bill, we've had a chance to meet, to talk about some ceramics, a little bit about the trepidations around tarot, which are completely understandable. We're going to pick a focus card after we take a little visual tour. And then we're going to make some connections and we're going to do a little reading. And we'll show you what that reading looks like. So let's right now just take a tour of the cards. And our major player in the tarot is this Fool character. And he's the idea of our spirit not yet manifest. He's the idea of willingness. He's the idea of learning. He's the idea of, I don't know, let's find out. And the idea being that this valley he's jumping into is higher even than some of those other mountains that are in the background. And he's going to get higher and then jump to another valley. And it's always this idea of, conquering higher and higher peaks over the lifetime, so to speak, or over the cycles. The major arcana, these are 22 cards, and these depict his journey. And I'm going to blow this up a little bit for us. And so in his journey, let's say the first row on the top is his internal capacity and the household around. So you have your internal masculine and feminine polarity. Then you might have an external mother and father and a teacher and a boyfriend or girlfriend and a chariot, like your first car. I mean, this is kind of like the beginnings of life. This is a vast oversimplification, everybody, but it's useful as a way to think about this. The second row is like the lessons of adulthood. You've got your passions with a strength, solitude, luck, other people's pathways, law. How are you dealing? What is your pathway? Are you with everybody else or perhaps not? What are the big things that pass through our life, like that death card? Not death per se, but big transformations that we cannot avoid. And then there's the temperance card where we start to get back into balance, learn our lessons. And this bottom row are really kind of spiritual states and attitudes. So the devil card is where you kind of forget that there's anything other than this material plane, and you get so hung up on all of the contracts and the money and the perceptions and the ego and the delusions and the whatever, the control, all that kind of stuff. And then at a certain point, reality will come along and kind of knock you out of your little ivory tower. And then you're left with your authentic self in that star card, but you don't have a lot of light and direction with the moon card. It's very emotional. And then there is liberation with that sun card, a new, drummer to march to, and that judgment card, and then a whole new beginning, new ending, new portal in that world card. So that's the Fool's journey in the major arcana. As you look at those, Bill, with our Fool here and these other cards here, are there any particular cards that like call to you or that you would like to unpack together with us that are intriguing at all?
The Hermit card and the Star card are two that that sort of attracted me when I was looking at them first time through.
Okay, wonderful. So take your pick, and we'll put one up to unpack it.
Let's go with the Star card.
Let's go with the Star card, and Kefri's going to put that up on our display right now, and we'll take a look at the Star card. And here we go. And as this loads, we're going to see our Star card emerge. And we can see on the left, there's 4 stars. In the middle is a big 8-pointed star. And then on the right, we have our other stars. Oh, and it's loading now. That's good. So here we go. We have our 7 stars, our 8-pointed stars, so 8 total. This figure is not clothed. So this is, and notice her foot. She's not sinking into the water. So this is not a worldly figure. This is an otherworldly figure, and she is pure. There's no artifice in terms of clothing. And she's pouring the waters of spirit into 2 places. She's pouring it into our unconscious, which is the water, and that has a ripple effect in us. And then she's also pouring it into the land, which is our conscious mind. And you'll notice that there are 5 little rivulets in that stream. And that goes back to that idea of 5 senses, that we experience the world with our 5 senses. Our conscious mind has the 5 senses to kind of handle the physical world. And there's an ibis bird on the tree behind, and there are some, it's hard to see in this image, but there are some iris flowers, and those are associated with the rainbow, with Egyptian symbols of transformation, etc. So I'm going to hand off to Mike. Mike, what are some things that you see in this card or think of when you imagine the Star card, or when you think of this archetype?
Well, I always see, well, it's connected to Aquarius, the zodiac sign Aquarius. And oh God, what else am I trying to? What does the star do? The star's an interesting one. Whenever I see it, I always feel like it's the card that's, because it's connected to Aquarians, that they're the humanitarians of the zodiac. They're also kind of bossy within themselves, I think, and with the
bossy,
world.
You said?
Yeah, kind of, but not in a bad way. Bossy in like a very a fluid way, like you were saying before. That's sort of the first thing that comes to mind. And then with, I like numerology. It's 8. It's connected to the number 8, which is strength and infinity as well.
Thank you. Kefri, what do you have to share in terms of the Star card?
I call this card magic of the universe, actually, because this is the magic that is hidden in the universe. And also, if you look at the Hebrew letter that is behind this card, it is tzadi. And tzadi means a fish hook that you can lower down into your unconscious to probably catch something. And also in this card, the interesting scenery here, that she pours the water in both places here, back in the water and on the land, but also observe that the water on the land goes back in the water in the water.
Thank you. So Bill, that's the Star card that you picked out. What are some things that come to mind for you? What was attractive about this card to you?
I think
Sometimes it's just a feeling, you know?
some of the terms that you used to describe it initially, and I don't really remember what they are now. And certainly some of the things that Effie was saying lately in my journey of meditation and spirituality, I have been very drawn away from sort of moving away from my historical, beliefs around God, and more drawn to what my spirit has in common with the universe, and this notion around, we are stardust, and that the same things that stars are made of, we are also made of. And that's an incredibly powerful concept for me lately. And so in line with what Kefri was saying.
Yeah. And then so that song, "We Are Stardust, We Are Golden." We've got to get ourselves back to the garden. And this is a beautiful garden card as well. So there you go. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So as we look at coming back to our image tour here, we looked at our majors, we looked at the star. And one of the words that I used for that star, Kefri, is Bill, is authenticity. And I think that authenticity is something that you have always really demonstrated. And I love seeing it come out now with the ceramics and how you just livened up talking about it. Whereas when we talked about our reading programs, neither of us was quite that enthusiastic. Although we both love it and we both love literacy. It's just a different kind of thing when you get into the creative arts. And so it's good to welcome us back to it, shall we say. Let's take a look at our minor arcana. And here in our minor arcana, we can see these are the ancestors of the playing cards that maybe you play poker with, or maybe you play gin rummy with, or go to Vegas with, or whatever. And so on the left are the clubs, which are the wands. That's fire. You can see all the fiery symbols in that knight who's very fast moving below. You've got the water card that's connected to the hearts. This is the cups, and all the water symbols on our very courtly knight below. Then you've got the air, which is the intellect, which is the sword suit that's related to the spades. And you can see that our knight is off and running. He is got his idea and he is off to war. And because wars are started over ideas more than anything else. And then we also have our earth suit, which is, we can see that 5-pointed star again with the 5 senses that we have within our bodies, which are our vehicle for this earth, to apprehend this earth. And it is the slowest of the suits. Look at the horse. The horse is just standing there because we have to deal with time, because that's our medium here in this 3D earth plane, is that we have to do things in time, and it takes a long time for things to play out. So let's take a quick tour of those wands, the fire sign. This is ambition, intuition, spark. You might see here in the 1 through 10, the progression of an idea or a project. You can see all the fiery signs in the page, knight, king, and queen. Then in the cups, which is watery, this is like emotional progressions, perhaps the stages of a relationship or an emotional involvement. Look at all the watery symbols in the court cards. And then you can see in the swords, this is our intellect. This is cold thought and analysis. And we can get very hung up and tied up in our thoughts, or even nailed to the ground by our thoughts. Look at all the air symbols in the court cards. And then finally back again to the earth, where this is our slow suit. Imagine here contracts, responsibilities, jobs, businesses, things like that, and all the earthy symbols in those cards. Here's our reading that we're going to do with Bill. And what we're going to do today is, if you take a look at the top middle, we're going to pick a card to represent whatever it is that we're looking at today. And Bill, you can decide and tell us in a minute whether you want to look at a particular issue or just see what comes up. We're good with it either way. On the bottom is a timeline, and it's kind of a timeline, could be like the past and literally now, and then what's coming up in the future. Or we could be looking at an arc of time of an issue that was significant, and we're looking at a little storyline. And then there's some advice. What's going to be, what should you maybe be cautious and avoid? And then on the other hand, what should you move toward because it's so supportive and will help your growth. And then we'll have a 7th card, which is going to give us some perspective to consider on this. And that's what's happening. So what questions might we have as we think about all of this? Bill, do any questions come to mind for you, or is there any issue you want to handle or look at in this?
Well, certainly an issue that is weighing on me is aging. It's an issue that, has got a lot of implications physically, spiritually, in terms of, sort of this idea that no matter how you look at it, time is running out, and how I spent my time in the past, and how do I choose to use my time, which I very much view as a gift, moving forward. So aging.
Thank you. It's a topic we all have to handle, don't we? And consider the alternative. So it's better to age than not have the opportunity to age, I suppose.
Sure, exactly. That's what I mean about it being a gift.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we're all, Mikey, you're the young one among us, but we're all probably in a similar kind of age range in this bunch here. And so, Mikey, you're our kid, and all of us need to really look at that, because it used to be like the giant thing stretched before us, and now it's a much more question mark landscape in terms of what we have available and what we can do, and we don't know how much time we have to do it, like we never did, but maybe we're just more serious about recognizing that now.
I think we're
that's what we're gonna do.
More aware of it now, I think, that, right? Just sort of being in this age bracket that we're in, we're just more aware of how much time we have, or not, like you said before. Because when you're young, you feel like you feel very invincible, and that, right? And that nothing, you can do everything, and nothing sort of, you have all that time. But as the years creep by, all of a sudden you realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe I don't have as much time as I actually thought. So I think the value increases, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Alison, I feel compelled to bring something up here. When we would pass each other in the cubicles at whatever horrible building we were in.
A harbor building.
You knew that I was interested in golf, and you said to me, this had to be almost 30 years ago. You said to me, why don't you be a professional golfer? I don't know if you remember saying that.
I do. I said, you should be a golf pro.
Yeah. And I thought, wow, what an incredible perspective that is.
Can I ask Alison real quick, why did you ask him? Why did you ask Bill? Or why did you?
The same enthusiasm he was showing for the ceramics, which had him talk very passionately at the beginning here about the ceramics, was the same kind of energy that was brought to the golf. And I think that that's something that should be explored. And you have the build, you have the will, There's a wide open possibility. We've got the climate, the opportunity. Why not?
Yeah. Why not? Exactly.
Why not?
Well, clearly, I found a lot of reasons why not, clearly.
That's always a good thing, right?
But, the fact that you might even consider it maybe was something more that you hadn't considered. And I'm happy to bring that along to anybody, because we all want to open our minds. My mind has been so closed to my own possibilities that I'm trying to open it up now myself.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I don't know, this isn't like I don't want to take a trip down.
It's your time, Bill. It's your time. Let's put you
one of the things I always remember about you, because we often were, interacting with so many different levels of competency in terms of the people we were trying to help. And, I certainly put myself in that category as well. I mean, I brought a certain level of competency to the work and a certain amount of incompetence, I'm sure. But I remember always thinking that you were always the smartest person in the room, and you always knew, and you knew it, and you're always trying to figure out a way not to alienate people.
Oh my God.
And not conspicuously talking down to them, So yeah, that's what.
Well, I hope I achieve that end, because I don't like talking down to people, and nor should I be like in that position. But thank you very much, and I will strive to uphold that standard. As I was shuffling, I would just want to just show what we have here. As I was shuffling, and let's see if we can bring this one into the thing. One of these cards got left on the table, and so that's, there's going to be some significance. And you were just talking about the passage of time, and if there was ever a card that is about, let me bring this over here. Sorry about that. If there was ever a card that's about the passage of time, it is this 8 of Wands card, which is just about everything so fast. And all these ideas that you think you have, they all come at you, and which ones can you do and which ones can't you do? So I think in terms of how time flies, and let's hope we're having fun, is this card here. So just thought I would bring that up since we were talking about this, the aging factor. So let's go ahead and shuffle up here.
And it's a quick movement, the 8 of Wands. That's what always stands out for me. The way that it's represented with them, it looks like they're flying at you or away.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay.
All right. So basically, you see, I kind of snake the cards out, and I'm kind of touching them. I just, and then I'm going to, I like this shape because it lets me kind of distinguish the cards from each other. If you were here sitting in front of me, Bill, you'd pick the cards. You might even have shuffled them, because I like this to be as interactive as possible. So you can't, it's going to be long and arduous for you to tell me to pick every card. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I go where my eyes fall. So we're going to talk about, Bill's topic, time is flying, aging. What are we talking about today? So that is the Queen of Wands. Take heart, a lot of energy left. Let me put our interface up.
I would like to add something just quickly that I noticed. When Bill
picked, would you put that in the focus position, Kefri?
Yeah. When Bill picked the star card, that, going back to numerology, that's it symbolizes 8. And also, I just wanted to just quickly, I don't know what the connection is yet, but the 8 of Wands card that had fallen off. So
very good. 8 and 8. So we got a lot of 8s going on here. So, and that 8 is strength. And so in this topic that we're talking about, 8 is the strength card. It's the figure, if you remember, there's a woman in a white robe handling this lion with love. And that's all this vital energy, sexual energy, vital energy, strong and in place. So take heart. And then this Queen of Wands she could be that one. Look at all the lions on her. So what's your sign, by the way, Bill?
Gemini.
Okay. So that also explains the brilliance and the multifacetedness and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely. Right.
But both.
Here we go. What's that, Mike?
Both being air signs. He's a Gemini, and the card that he picked was Star, which is Aquarius, which is also air. Commonly confused with water sign because of the being the water bearer.
Thank you.
I look at Aquarians as they sort of are the water bearers of the zodiac. I look at them as nourishers, if that makes sense.
And we saw that star card. She had the 2 pictures, one into the water and one into the land. So it's that bringing the water of spirit. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about, now we're going to do the timeline on the bottom. So let's look at the past part of this timeline. And here, the Magician.
Oh, wow.
Reinvention. How about the middle part of this timeline? 7 of Swords. After that 7 of Swords, then what? Ooh, 5 of Swords.
It's a lot of action down there, huh?
Thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do some advice cautionary. So cautionary. Watch out for this. Might be your default tendency. Might be better to avoid the Hanged Man. And then we'll display less concern in our vocal patterns.
No, this is an interesting. Interesting.
Yeah. And then And then advice positive. So what is a good idea for Bill to incorporate to move things forward? And that would be the 10 of Pentacles.
Oh.
And then Kefri, I think, is going to pick our big card near the end. So would you pull up, Kefri, right now for the focus, that Queen of Wands? And I'm going to just come back here real quick just to remind us all what our positions are there. And so we're just focusing on that Queen for the moment, but we're looking at this issue with the Queen, and then advice on the left to watch out for, advice on the right to do. And then we're looking at that timeline on the bottom. And then later on, we'll look at another big card to give us kind of an umbrella bit of perspective here. So now looking at our reading, we can see our issue being this Queen of Wands. And so you've got a lot of irons in the fire, like you got a lot of pots in the kiln, I imagine. You know, there's just lots of stuff you like to do. All kinds of things have your interest, and it's kind of like you have to backward map your life. What am I going to do? What do I have to plan? Is there time? Can I get it all done? Is it worthwhile? Can I manage it? Do I like it enough? How's the cat? You know, I mean, it's like all these things. So there's this idea of having your hands in a lot of different things and everybody trusting you with it. So this idea of multi-talented, trustworthy, good manager, and you're also this feeling of like you're kind of in your element, feeling like you're in your element. And so that's why I would say that's perhaps a good descriptor for you at this time in your life, because there's a certain amount of, it's certainly from the energy you brought to this, it feels like this is a good time of life. And as we look at this timeline below, let's take a look at that Magician. It seems like you've been able to really make the changes you've needed to make and make things happen. You may not acknowledge this much about yourself, but I bet you've had some big transformations in your life where you have, in a short period of time, been able to pull something into existence, like from nothing, like imagine something and make it happen. That's certainly happening now with the clay and things like that. And maybe that's maybe that's a very concretized symbol and medium for what you are training yourself to do in the world, which is to bring forward whatever projects or business or this custom tableware or whatever the vision is. Bringing this vision into being is really important. And it's so interesting that you're bringing it into vision, and look before you on the table are all these different implements and tools. And so that idea of bringing it down into the garden, we are golden. We got to get back to the garden. You're bringing this energy into the garden. Is a very beautiful thing. And Kefri's also pointed out, if you're a big Queen fan, Freddie Mercury, he was always striking this pose to kind of pull the energy down and stuff like that. So the idea that you're connected and you can wield the energy was a big part of what you've been bringing to this period of your life. But what's interesting is that I think you're getting really tangled up in thoughts. And so let's look at that 7. And so it's possible that with all the magic and stuff like that's been happening, you've had to make some choices. I'm thinking this is like people you've had to leave behind, or some separation from a social circle, or something that meant that you had to make some choices. And perhaps those choices actually disarmed the other people so it wouldn't come to a full-out war. So this figure is kind of coming and disarming some other people so they don't kill each other. So maybe you're meeting in some kind of a thing right now. Maybe there's something going on that you are trying to figure out. How can we make the best of this bad situation, or make the best of this situation that's armed against us? How can we get away clean? How can we make this happen for ourselves? What would be an acceptable enough compromise? What would be morally okay in these circumstances to do? Sometimes this is this morally sketchy card. Maybe somebody's doing something weird with you. Maybe somebody's taken something from you. There's something going on where there's some kind of compromise of the situation that has to be addressed. And as we move into the 5, which is the future aspect of this. So I don't know if this whole thing has been completed and we're just talking about it in retrospect, or if you're in the middle of it now, but it looks like somebody's got to walk away or be very definitive in that this is over now. It's over.
Astonishing.
Okay. And so whether you're the walker awayer or you're the collector of the weapons, and notice, by the way, that these are 5 swords that he's picking up, and that other guy, the 7, he's carrying away 5 swords. So if you're the problem solver, then you are taking these thoughts and taking them with you so that you can do with them what you will, and those other people are going to have to deal with it as they will. They have to walk away. There's a definitive conflict being resolved here with argument, communication, and decisiveness that is either upcoming or was the culmination of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Back up to the top row in terms of recommendation, do not hang yourself up to dry. Let's put up that hanged man, Kefri. It's not your fault. You are, if you're the one who is hung up by this, if somebody screwed you over or whatever the thing is, and now you are the one who has to handle it, pay the money. This could be the electricians. I don't know. But there's this idea of being suspended, and it's virtuous. You're in the right place. It's the right thing to do. He's in the tree pose. He's meditating. He's gathering the energy. But he's counter to the mainstream thinking. But that's right for him. Now, what's interesting is that you're nodding, but this is the recommendation against. So what would that mean? Does that mean that your natural inclination to stand as your own man and be your own man is not the stance right now? Does this mean that your decision to walk away and fuck those people, excuse my language, is a strategy that's not going to be helpful to you?
No,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there is an astonishing amount of prevalence
Cool.
to this.
Cool.
That,
it usually happens that way, which is why it is astonishing, and that's why we come and hang around these things. It's cool, you know.
Because
Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't the time to describe why. So
It's up to you. It's your reading.
Well, let's keep going and see. So I guess in a way,
The
I'm withholding information as a means to kind of.
It's all good.
Is real.
It's all yeah. It's all good. And you don't have to reveal any of it because this is your personal reading and you're under no obligation to reveal any of it to us. That's a bit of our payoff, but you can be vague or be you can just say, okay, bye. Yeah, that's cool. So the hanged man in the recommendation against, don't be so contrary that nobody can relate to you. Avoid being so righteous that right already, this kind of thing. And don't isolate yourself because you're not getting the benefit of the love that's available to you. So let's go to that 10. And the money that's available to you. And the wealth, because wealth is in many forms. Wealth is in love. Wealth is in contact. Wealth is in collaboration. Wealth could be taking a loan because you got to get out of the situation. All of a sudden, that just solves a bunch of problems and it makes it comfortable and it's anchored in real estate. So you're not going to lose it. You're going to keep it. It's going to be okay. That kind of thing. Let's look at this card. The coins, first off, are in the 10. The 10 is fulfillment. The 10 is the coins are configured in the shape of the Kabbalistic tree of life. You've got 3 generations. You've got grandpa. You've got the adult kids and the little grandchildren. You got a few dogs in the mix. You've got this homestead. Looks very Italian. Maybe you're going to Italy. I don't know. You're going to Bologna? Looks like Bologna. Looks like south of France for somebody else we read. And so the idea being that what the recommendation is to enjoy what you have. Revel in it. It's not going to run out. You're going to figure out ways to generate more. Enjoy the beautiful life you have. Enjoy the beautiful place you're in. Enjoy the beautiful people around you. And don't get hung up in a bunch of fights that isolate you and make you stand alone, because it's no fun to be alone. And it's more fun to be with people. And you have a lot to give and offer and get from others. And so I think that the recommendation is in here might be just to kind of forgive and forget and just let it go. Let it go, whatever. It all comes out in the wash. And wouldn't we rather have a nice Christmas together or something along those lines? And just not. I've gone through a family conflict, and I so regret having brought this bitterness into our dynamic, because now I have to kind of get rid of that bitterness, and that's my job now. And I put it in there. So I don't know if that's something that you have in common, but I would much rather be in this energy than in that 5 of Swords energy. And so working towards getting out of that, I'm going to walk away, forget all of you. I'm going to stand alone. None of you understand. I'm correct, and it may be true. All of that may be absolutely true, but, get over yourself and go enjoy the party kind of thing. It might be the good advice in this case. So I'm going to shut up now. And then you are too, Bill, because we're going to talk to Mike a bit and then Kefri a bit and then take notes if you wish. And then we'll see if you want to we'll see what the relevance is at that point, because we're going to put a few more dimensions on it at this point. So thank you. And then I'm going to give it up to Mike. Here we go, Mike.
All right, Bill. What I noticed right away was the significator card, the Queen of Wands that's sitting up there. She represents creative ambition. And immediately after that, with the Magician card, that is a person who manifests and also creates and inspires a lot of action. So whether this is something physical, I kind of feel like it's physical and cerebral at the same time, or maybe spiritual. So we have the Queen of Wands sitting up there connected to the Magician. Like I said before, it was creative ambition. I would kind of see that as both those cards are equal in that, and also being a creator of sorts. Going over to the Seven of Swords, I always see that card as, I look at him as the sort of the trickster and almost a thief of that suit. And for that, I think it's more thoughts for some reason. I feel like maybe something, with the Five Swords that he's carrying in his arms, look at his face. He's just like sneaking off, like he just took something, but he left two in the ground back there. And there's a huge, sort of circus tent or home, or, it can be any kind of thing like that. I just kind of feel like you created something, or maybe you created something in your head, and someone, or maybe your thoughts, are kind of stealing some things away from whatever situation that is, but also leaving you a couple there. And then moving on to the Five of Swords, it ended in some kind of conflict, whether it was with another person, situation, or your own mind, is kind of what I thought. The next thing I see is going back to the Magician. That's a number 1. So that's the beginning. And then going up to the 10 of Pentacles in the advice to go toward, that's a 10, which is full completion. So for me, I really, those are the ones that stand out and tell a story to me. You have the beginning with the Magician, and then you have the end in really nice full completion there. But in the middle of this, once again, with the Seven of Swords, there might have been some trickery or some kind of thievery, either by someone, or you kind of did it to yourself in your mind, maybe, that ended in some kind of an internal conflict, or a conflict with a person, or a conflict in the situation. I will say, going back to the Magician, just keeps like poking out at me. The Magician is connected to the planet Mercury, and Mercury is about communication. And so I get the Magician card a lot. And whenever I do, it usually means that I need to be aware of my how I communicate to myself first, and then how I communicate to others, if that makes sense. So that's basically the story that I see there. But whatever it is that gone on or is going on, it really does end in that 10 of Pentacles, of just kind of a celebration and full completion of sorts.
What about the Hangman?
I feel like Alison kind of covered that enough. For me, the Hangman, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not really quite sure, because the Hangman, as far as we're talking like planets are concerned, it symbolizes Neptune, and Neptune is it's the ruler of dreams and illusion. So that's why I kind of feel like that Seven of Swords card, that I think you might have been tricking yourself somehow, or maybe, there might have been some slight deception in there somewhere, because that's the only way that in sort of the way that I'm reading this, that Hangman is there, which is also in the cautionary spot. So I kind of feel, and it's above, it's on the top row. It's above that thievery, sort of sneakiness, and that ending in conflict with the Five of Swords. But it's also, this is what I don't understand, I guess. The best way I can interpret that Hangman is going back to the planet of Neptune being the ruler of sort of dreams, and it can also be illusions at the same time. So there you go. I'm going to hand it over to Kefri.
Thank you, Mike. I'm going another way here. I am looking at your creative process, actually, Bill, because I think that is mirroring in these cards. And I think when you get an idea, it's like it comes from a higher realm, actually, and you don't know why it has come, and it is something you keep to yourself, actually, and I think it's right to keep it to yourself at that stage, actually, because that builds you up in what you are going to do, actually, in that subject where the idea has coming, actually, and there is a protection there, so you don't have to be afraid of losing it, or if it is the wrong idea or something, because it is the right idea, and it gives a strength in you to go on with this. And when you start going on with this, you feel that you are like a tool for a bigger force, actually, that there are more to this than just produce something like pottery or something. It's more that this is a higher mission in this also. And that is also the case, of course, that there is not a coincidence that you do what you do, actually. And there is also a process here, I think, in the 7 there. I read it more like there is something when you have an idea or something that you want to develop or something happens, because there is things that going lost in the original thought, actually, and that can irritate you, I think, that those ways are not possible to develop further, but that's the right thing, actually, to go what is left, even if it is like that is not what you want to do. But I think the thing is that those things is what you should pick up and go with, actually, and not be sorry for the other ID space, so to speak, and thought space that didn't led to anything, actually. And you shouldn't feel sorry for that. You should just go on with that thing that you have been picking up, actually. And even if it doesn't feel right at the moment, but it is right, actually. And also there is in this process, there is something deeper happening, actually, because you are integrated in a sort of a space in a mundane plane with a sort of a spiritual place, and you are one with all of it, so to say. You are a tool for something bigger also. And there is an advice here, I think, that is in hide, and that is look deeper in this when you feel like this, because there is something in hide there that you should discover, that will take it even to a higher ground, what you are wanting to creating, actually. And finally, the Hanged Man. In this concept, I would say, don't try to look at things from different perspectives when you have them before you, because often that just complicates things. And that could also be connected to those 2 standing swords in the 7 of Swords, actually, that keep what you have. Don't try to change something that you have already found a direction for, or a perspective or something, because it will not be better when you do that. Don't try to see it from upside down or something. That is the way I read the Hanged Man here, actually. And I like those cards because they are showing a full process, and they also show so much more we have seen. And that is an example of the different levels in the tarot cards, actually. And I stop there. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Kefri. So, Bill, we held off until now. We hope that this is relevant. And is there anything that you would like to comment as you look at this?
Well, yeah. When I retired, it was unpleasant because it was unpleasant for a lot of reasons, but mostly I didn't have a sense of purpose. And, I think, Alison, you and I both know that we were motivated by a higher purpose in helping people with literacy. That was really what was driving that effort. And it was just mired in all the bureaucratic variables that were so much out of our control. So when I did retire and my neighbor said he's starting a ceramics class, I thought, okay, it's right across the street. Why not? And so I went in there, and there were 4 or 5 of us in a beautiful studio that he built across the street and connected to his home. And I went all in and began learning how to work with clay on a wheel. And right about the same time, a friend of mine from Denmark was visiting, and I hadn't seen her in years. And we met at Starbucks up at Trancas, and I was covered with clay. I just left the studio, and she said, "Oh, my best friend is a ceramicist. She has a studio downtown." Little did I know that this person was not just a ceramicist. She was a full-blown visionary.
Wow.
Who had manifest ceramics in a way that it was really quite remarkable, in that she was in the most high-end boutiques and restaurants and stores throughout the world. It was humble. It was called Humble Ceramics. Unfortunately, it got away from her. Grew too fast, and it got away from her. But I had conversations with her, which were so affirming. And I tell this story quite often, is that she said, "You're starving. You are starving." And, Alison, that feeling that we got working at LUSD, it did give you a sense of deprivation and being starved, because what we really wanted to accomplish, and no matter how hard we worked at it, it just didn't quite manifest, at least for me.
I did a few jobs after that where we were still kind of chasing that same dream, and things would come in to thwart it, and it's very heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking is a good description of it, yeah. And so what happened was I was inspired by her aesthetic and mine paralleled very closely. And so I would take this vision, this aesthetic, and I would bring it to the studio. And it was in conflict with the owner of the studio, because he was, for whatever reason, he just was really had a distaste for ceramics as tableware. He was one who viewed, his work could only be ceramics as art. And he really, I think in some way, somewhere along the line, he thought he just was not interested. He just was not interested. He was a little condescending about it, honestly. And I was going down this road of making tableware inspired by humble ceramics.
Hmm.
And it got to the point where he got really uncomfortable about it because his studio was filling up with tableware, and it made him really uncomfortable. And we had to end that relationship. He could not have predicted that one of his students would eventually just become like a tableware person, making bowls and plates, and so his studio was filled with it, and it made him uncomfortable. And it was clear to me that I couldn't continue under those circumstances with just making stuff and waiting for him to fire the kiln. And, you know, the card that was really interesting is this number 7 card, the guy who's struggling all these swords.
Would you put that up, Jeffrey?
The woman who I was, you know, working with, I volunteered as she was going out of business. She needed a lot of help. But she was always uncomfortable. She always believed that my work was a little too close to hers. You know, and she would let me know that. You know, it's not a trademark. It's the propriety of it. There is none.
Well, it's the sincerest form of flattery too.
Yeah, but she believed, you know, I was I was making extraordinary work, better than she could make herself personally. And she, as much as said, you know, find your own vision kind of thing. And so that's why, you know, that 7 card, that, you know, there was a little
5 too, the 5 too, especially. That's that walk away, go away, that kind of thing, you know.
So I had to walk away from the studio that was right across the street, and I had to kind of juggle this idea: am I stealing ideas, or am I just, is that the vision that I like, and I just happen to be, you know, manifesting pieces that were similar to hers. And so that now I'm in this process of creating a studio for myself, you know, and you know, one of the you know, we were in, and so we got to decide, where's it going to be? How are we going to make it? Can we afford it? Is it something that is for real? And, you know, buying a kiln and building a small studio. And then what's really just magical about all this is that I thought I was going to have to do one thing. In other words, I was going to have to compromise this aesthetic vision because I didn't have the capacity to produce it. I didn't have the kiln to do it. And then I found the kiln to do it downtown. I found the kiln to do it. Amazing. Because I literally was, what am I going to do? I'm just going to have to compromise, was the thinking. I'm going to have to compromise. I'm going to have to change my vision because I don't have the capacity to produce it anymore. And then I said, well, this is LA. It's the second biggest city in the country. Maybe there is another way. And so I got online and I found this place, and that's what they do. You can bring your stuff and they'll fire it. Meaning,
let's put up at 10, Jeffrey. Yeah, wonderful. So you've got a place where they can do what you want them to do, and it's so now you can be your own man. You can do your own vision. You can be your own artist. You don't have to depend on other people. Yeah,
that's correct. That's
and you
correct.
can equip families with wonderful things to have wonderful feasts with. You know.
So that's why, you know, I kept going. You know, I'm curious about the hangman thing. It seems like that's the card on here that is kind of the one that has questions associated with it, and what it means, what its relevance could be, the cautionary tale.
You did nothing wrong. You did nothing wrong. You did nothing wrong.
No, that's true. I didn't do anything wrong. I did. It's absolutely correct.
And it is your vision, and you're entitled to your vision, and your vision is nothing to be ostracized. That was incorrect. You should be included. What is correct is inclusion, not exclusion.
And that's what I meant about it being connected to Neptune. And it's Neptune represents dreams and illusions, and they can go either anywhere on the spectrum, from being really positive to sort of in the middle, neutral, which I don't really that's kind of weird.
Yeah,
But
and there is nothing wrong with your vision. There is
No.
everything wrong with someone who feels threatened and wants to squelch your artistic expression. That is very oppressive and deserves to be walked away from.
Mhm. Does that Bill?
You
Does
know,
that bottom row make sense to you? Like
does what makes sense?
Does that whole bottom row make sense to you? Having the magician representing, basically like that kind of the ultimate creator, that creative ambition, and manifester, and then going into the 7, you know, having that sort of thievery or deception, whether it's something physical and or, you know, your thoughts with yourself that ended, you know, in that walk away.
You know, I think meanings mean a lot of things. They can mean that. They could also mean what's inside you. They manifest on so many different levels. The vibe plays out in all these different ways. Yeah.
That's why I'd mentioned the 7. I got both. I got both kind of maybe 3. There was a physical, there was a spiritual, and mental as well.
You know, I just want to be really clear in that the studio in which I originally was working, my first teacher in ceramics, who owns this studio across the street, he's an incredibly talented and very skilled ceramicist.
Wonderful. This is the one who does the beautiful art pieces and things?
If he chose to make bowls and plates, he certainly could. But it's not that he has a real distaste for it. And I don't know why. I don't know why.
I'm going to come in with that hangman and say, forget his taste.
Yeah.
Forget his taste.
It's all an illusion. Whatever.
That you're not good enough, that your art is not good enough for his standards. Okay, that's why you're building your own studio. Thank you very much. You know, and so let's move over into the feeling of abundance and inclusion. Put up that 10, would you, Kefri?
Yeah.
And then you're like, this is your baby. Why should you be ashamed of your child? Why should you think that bowl is any less than some, you know, like weird, and not to diss your teacher across the way at all. But everyone has things that they bring out at different times in their life. And this is your stoneware, tableware phase. After down the line, you might be making, you know, busts of humans. Who knows?
He would make a bowl, you know, 10 times this size, beautiful balance, you know, and I would beg him, don't glaze the outside. Just once, don't glaze the outside. Just glaze the inside. Because this is this vision that I like, and then also my friend from Denmark introduced me to. And he never would.
Yeah. Because honestly, listen, you're a little threatening. It's a sad situation. It's a sad thing that a sincere, talented learner who wants to learn, wants to admire, wants to learn, has to be treated as a threat. And I've been there in the singing world. It destroyed me for a number of years. So I hope this does not destroy your creative impulse. I hope that you continue on and you recognize, look at this 10 that we have highlighted right now, as you fondle your beautiful bowl, as you should admire the proportions, the feel, the difference between the smoothness of the glaze and the roughness of the stoneware. Enjoying all of those aspects of it is a full out human, tactile, beautiful 10 of Pentacles kind of experience where you are enjoying the things of the earth.
And remember, Bill, that, you know, in numerology, 10, like I was saying before, it's a complete cycle. And I always think of the 10 of Pentacles as it's creation from a new place of abundance. And that's that's how I always see that card, because it is like, you can see everything that this person had manifested, and or it might have taken some other route to get there, or you had all the ingredients, but you kind of did them in different steps. When I've gotten that card with certain situations like this, that's kind of what I see. So to me, it's creation of new things of abundance and completion. And it's also in the advice to go toward, you know, to seek that advice.
Also, this is a very homey card.
Very.
I mean, it's a rather fabulous home, but it's really about home.
Right.
And tableware is for home use. It's for enjoying the food. It's for putting out a big, beautiful salad. It's for baking off a casserole. It's for having a lovely plate to display your beautiful food. I mean, it's a very day-to-day, humble, glorious experience to have an aesthetic in your day-to-day life. And so it's wonderful that you're inspired by humble pottery. It is
Humble
absolutely
ceramics.
humble ceramics. Thank you. And just in general, conceptually humble pottery, specifically humble ceramics. And
that was the name of the business.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
And are you familiar with?
No, that's why I mentioned it, because you brought it up,
yeah.
and you brought her up, and how much you admired her and her aesthetic, and how sorry you were to have her business not survive. And now, here's another thing: how would you feel if your business survived and hers didn't?
Well,
so I encourage you to be okay with that.
It's a real stretch. It's a real stretch to think that my work in ceramics will ever even approximate the scope of what she accomplished in 10 years.
Let's take it off the artistic admiration and take it to a business thing, because you mentioned your vision. And let's say that, what if you were able to make this business viable where she was not, where brick and mortar is so hard and we don't have to do that anymore?
It would be I mean, it would be so all-consuming. I mean, I can't tell you how big her business was. Her business was huge. And
I was basically exploring this 10. And the reason I asked the question is because I wanted to explore the idea that with that hanged man kind of dichotomy here, could you be okay being financially successful where she, someone you loved and admired, had a financial failure?
Yeah. You know,
and could you morally?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because they're completely, you know, this is connecting to the age piece again, you know, is like, I kind of wonder, do I have enough time? Do I have enough time? Because I don't have any question about the vision. I don't have any question about my capacity to manifest that vision in a sort of a microcosm or a sort of a smaller view, like taking commissions for personal tableware is a lot different than taking commissions for huge hotels in Dubai.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I can only imagine. And as a business person, you have to examine whether the margins and the effort are worth it in terms of, in your calculation, is that the successful business that you're looking for?
Yeah,
but all I wanted to do here was tease out the idea that you could be okay with making a success for yourself as an artist, as a ceramicist, as these things that you are newly identified as. Would you be okay with having that be a source of abundance in your life?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
And I have no question. I have no question about it.
Good. And then I'm going to say to you that if the Pentacles suit is the suit of time and slowness, that pulling the Pentacles, this card in this particular position, is telling you that you have the fullness of time, capital F, capital T, to work in.
And remember, creation from a new place.
Yeah, and like in the Italian thing, cent'anni, 100 years.
Yeah, and it will give money in the end, actually.
Yeah, and lots of time, money, enjoyment, lush. You're going to be in Malibu making pots, making money. What could be better,
I would say too, to just if you're having any of these doubts of any sort whatsoever, go back to the Queen of Wands, which is basically you. Like that's the subject of this reading, and like I was saying before with the Magician, both of those are ambitious creators.
Yes,
and
very comfortable multitaskers, happy people, do a lot of stuff.
And for me, the communication,
pay the bills, do this, drive to the thing, just lots of irons on the fire. Happy. Yeah, and just watch but be aware. I would say, because again, that Magician and Queen of Wands, those are definitely you, both of those, with the creative ambition and all of that. The kind of an ultimate manifester.
connected to the planet of Mercury, and Mercury is about communication. So I would just be aware of how you communicate with others and yourself, particularly I think with yourself, and not being afraid to have abundance around you, or maybe slip into this imposter syndrome that we all of us who create things, we all have this imposter syndrome that we deal with all the time. And so that's what I'm saying, you know, just remember, I would personally, my advice to you would be to focus on the Queen of Wands and the Magician, because you've already been through the 7 Swords card, and you've already dealt with the 5. So for me, looking at this for you, ending in that advice to go toward that 10 of Pentacles, it's already there, and that's about abundance. And just remember that you're the creator. You're the ultimate creator in your own story, and you can change that story as much as you want. And then again, to go back to
you don't have to live by anybody else's standards or snobbish, you know, bars that they put arbitrarily according to their own egos. Yeah.
And some of the best advice I got at a young age was, if you follow somebody else's footsteps, you're following the wrong path. You have to do it. You have to do it yourself, and you have to make your own road.
Yeah.
And you can.
And then we'll be seeing you on the Follow Your Road show to get some follow up on this. Maybe.
Does that make sense, Bill?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. So for me, the Hanged Man is connected to, like I said, dreams and illusion, whether it's positive or negative. But I would say thoughts. You know, your thoughts. Like, don't be disillusioned by the sort of imposter syndrome, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And honestly, your big smile when you started talking about all that rest of my life, but now ceramics, you were like, yeah. So this is the new you. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Look at all those plates in all those 10 plates up there on that and 10 of Pentacles. You can see those as plates on the table too. Love it. Yeah. So this is the Tarot Flow. That's what it is. Kefri, some final words from you. I know that we've been talking. You might have some final words.
We have a 7th card also.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And
Great.
I've already drawn that card, actually, and it is the Page of Cups.
Oh wow. You got a message, Bill.
This is a card of surprise, newness, learning, a bit of naivete, but in a good way, so that the just be open to whatever your pots bring you, you know, because you were talking about how you have these realizations as you're making these pots and the cups and the whatever, and as you make these vessels, the spiritual message will come through to you. It's going to be part of that. As you look at the wheel and as you watch it turning and growing and just contemplating that spiralness of it, that spiralness of it is going to be giving you a lot of spiritual contemplation. So you're going to be doing this physical thing while you're in this kind of meditation / contemplation / absorption of intuitive information. And I think that it's kind of like it's coming in from above while your hands are occupied down below with this very fluid yet earthy medium. And so it's like emotions and earth all at once. And then you're the Gemini, you're in between with this dualistic kind of airy sparkiness that Geminis have in their intelligence and stuff. And so that ability to adapt and figure it and see it from different points of view and all this kind of stuff is going to be part of that meditation. And those fishies are going to be delighting you at every turn. And then you're going to look at the water and then have a big sigh and then throw your next plate or pot or whatever. It's going to be a beautiful thing, as it is now.
Yeah. And Bill, you have it in you to create it, actually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And look at lotus is from the mud. Out of the mud come these beautiful flowers. Yeah.
And cups, represent feelings, emotions, your intuitive and emotional connection to things. And so, that's a page is a messenger. So I would say, listen to the messages that the love and and not to sound corny, but the love and the abundance and sort of the expansiveness when you're creating something, tap into that.
Mm-hmm. Because that goes into the pots as well. When people hold that pot, they're feeling that as well.
Yeah, yes. Whether they eat out of it or put their keys and some their things in it or whatever it is, that is something that you created. And when you manifest that love,
they too will fondle your pots, Bill.
It's really true. That is infused inside of your art.
When I went to Delphine's studio the first time, she took a bowl from her sort of an area there where she had some finished work, and she said, hold this bowl. And there was like a palpable sense that came from holding that bowl. It was a calming, grounding some sense. And I've been trying to chase that bowl ever since. And this,
at least you're not chasing the high, Bill. That's good.
this is. Oh, I did that. Trust me, I did that. So this is as close to probably as I've come to that bowl. It's not quite heavy enough, but the shape is getting there. And,
no, it's not. And you have that muscle memory, that tactile, whatever, haptic, whatever it is.
No, haptic is a real.
You're trying to replicate that thing, and you're almost there. I love it. I love watching you palpate.
Well, look at
your little creation there.
The love that you have for it.
Yeah.
You're not looking at it. You're feeling it. You're really. There's a lot of emotion there with that. I can see.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Well, there we go. So there's our card. So Mike, did you speak to that page in Kefri? Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. So final words, Bill.
I think it's very generous of the three of you to do this. I mean, it's a generous thing, and I'm grateful to all of you.
Well, you are a worthy recipient, and we appreciate you coming out and sitting for this because you didn't know what it was going to be. And I hope that it meets your wife's standards of approval, if not your neighbor across the street. And
well, I'm sure she. Yeah, I'm sure she will approve.
And please extend the invitation to your lovely wife. We were happy to do readings on camera and off.
She's a fascinating, story of her own.
I bet.
She really, really is.
Cool.
She's the only.
Just thank you for letting us work with you.
Yeah, subject you to the tarot flow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody, let us say bye-bye to our page now, and let us also just sincerely thank you, Bill, for sitting for our crazy situation here, and we appreciate you, Kefri from Stockholm, appreciate you, Bill from Malibu, Mike from Montrose, and here I am from Echo Park. These are all little neighborhoods in Los Angeles, everybody. Thank you for joining us. By the way, anybody, if you're still with us after an hour and 20 minutes, bless you, thank you, and maybe you'll come see us at AlisonPickering.com. Check out our tarot, our talk, our travel, and all the rest of the good stuff. See you then, everybody. Thank you so much, and talk to you later.